The home of the common Joe and the common Sally in the know, even more so than all those media talking heads. Welcome to the show, as Kiss was once famously famous for saying. Welcome to the show. This is the Outlaw of College Football. That's the OCF, also known as JPC. That stands for Jesse Paul Clark on Facebook, spelled Jesse without the I. Also on Twitter at OCF Productions. Now, Brent Venables, once again to me, seemed like he had a pretty good idea. Had him a little impromptu press conference about the incoming freshmen and whatnot, and has decided to allow these freshmen to do interviews with the media, which is pretty much unheard of in most cases. I'm not real privy to how many programs allow this to go on, but from what the Oklahoma people are saying, this is something that never happens at Oklahoma. Now, it could be a good thing or a bad thing. Some of the Oklahoma fans and podcasters that I watch are sort of alluding to the fact that they think it's a desperation type move and that Brent Venables is stepping a little too far outside the box, so to speak, and that Bob Stoops didn't do it. Lincoln Riley didn't do it. Bob Stoops said that the players need to earn their way before they got put on a stage and got, put up there and had their egos boosted. They need to at least earn playing time before they get interviewed, which I can buy into that somewhat, but I also think that there's always two ways of doing something sometimes. Sometimes there's not, but sometimes there is. And in this case, I think Brent Venables is just thinking outside the box a little bit. And he explained in his interview, or he explained in the press conference, that the reason why he done this was because 53 of the players that were on the team in the Alamo Bowl are no longer with the team, which is a high turnover rate, very high turnover rate. He's got 37 new players coming in June the 1st, and he said that what better way to get them assimilated to what they need to be when they get in this program than to have them be assimilated through the public and the media so they can go ahead and get that under their belt and learn how to communicate not only with each other but with the public in general. And I don't see anything wrong with that. I think it's a good idea. Now, like I said, some people may think that you're maybe giving into the diva thing and the giving them too much of a big head type ego boost type thing, but I think it's actually a pretty good idea that you go ahead and get these players assimilated, especially with the kind of stuff that Brent Venables has had to go through. He's been dealing with high turnover rates since day one, and we all know why. I'm not going to go into all that, but Brent Venables was asked about Jackson Arnold, and he said Jackson Arnold is at the back of the line. Well, the good old coach speak. You got to come in and earn it. You're at the back of the line, Captain Obvious kind of thing. But the thing is, he added a little caveat to it. He said he won't be there for long, which tells me that this guy has impressed Brent Venables and them, because usually a coach will just leave it at, hey, he's at the back of the line, he's got to earn it, and that'll be it. But he added the he won't be there for long type thing, which tells me that Brent Venables and his staff have been impressed enough watching this kid, not only in high school, but in these Elite 11 camps, which, by the way, he won. He's went from a 4-star quarterback to a 5-star quarterback to a 5-star quarterback that won the most elite competition. That's why it's called the Elite 11. So the guy is an absorber. You can tell. He's a sponge. And that's the kind of guy you want at quarterback. You want a guy that's a sponge and is willing to learn anything. And during the interview process, they actually interviewed Jackson Arnold the other day. They asked him what kind of benefit was it that he's been committed so long. And he said it was pretty obvious that because he's been committed so long to Oklahoma, he's been able to sit back and learn their offense. He says somewhat complex offense for a high schooler coming in, but he's been helped out by the fact that some of the offense that Oklahoma is running is somewhat similar to some of the stuff that he done in high school. Not completely the same, but very similar. And the fact that he's been committed so long, it's allowed him to learn and maybe get ahead of the process a little bit and at least be the second-string quarterback coming in this year behind Dylan Gabriel. And another thing that's impressed me about the Oklahoma program and during this whole process and all the turmoil that they went through is the players that are currently with the team and how they're not afraid to help other players that could actually supplant them and take their position. Dylan Gabriel being one of those. Dylan Gabriel was the host for Jackson Arnold. And Jackson Arnold said the guy's been over the top, helpful, hasn't held back, has made sure that he's felt comfortable, taken him to the quarterback room, talked with the quarterbacks. They've even sat down with the wide receivers. Jackson Arnold was asked about the wide receiver room since Marvin Mims is gone. He said it seems like a very close-knit group, people that want to be on the same page, that are not just looking out for themselves. And all that is just complete positivity. I mean, and I don't know why some contingent of the fans out there want to get bent out of shape because Brent Venables is trying to do things just a little different. If you tried to stay with the status quo about everything, there's points in time in history where you never have historical coaches and dynasties and programs because they've done something a little different. So I would definitely, to me, I think that you should be proud of Brent Venables for doing some of these things differently. Like I said, some people see it as a desperation move, but that's not the way I see it. But you guys and gals tell me in the comment section what you think about all this. Also, Jackson Arnold was asked about Peyton Bowen, who was a guy that he played with in high school, or didn't play with him directly, but they competed against each other. Really good friends. He ended up committing to Oregon. I didn't know this, but Jackson Arnold actually talked to him after he committed to Oregon. He hadn't signed the papers yet, and so he had a long talk with Peyton Bowen on the phone that night. He was feeling uneasy about it, his commitment to Oregon, and he just wanted to get Peyton Bowen's opinions on it. And they asked him, I tried to, dig it out of him. Well, did you tell him that he needed to come to Oklahoma? Did you sort of persuade him to come to Oklahoma? And he didn't bite. Pretty smart kid. And basically told him, no, I didn't persuade him to do anything. I just told him what I thought and why I came to Oklahoma. We all know more than likely Peyton Bowen, and sure it's funny that the next day Peyton Bowen committed to Oregon. So more than likely Peyton Bowen was influenced by Jackson Arnold. Jackson Arnold is just too modest. And also during the interview process, a little funny thing happened. One of the Oklahoma linebackers came over with a mic, and you really couldn't see him, and Peyton was smiling from ear to ear, and I'm like, what's up here? What's he smiling about? And sure enough, it was somebody he knew. It was a linebacker for the current Oklahoma team. His name escapes me. You guys and gals can throw it in the comment section, tell me who that was. But one of the current linebackers for Oklahoma come over and was acting like one of the interviewers and asked him some questions about the team. And he basically gave him the answer like, I'm going to look out for my defense, my running game. It's not going to be all about me, blah, blah, blah. And got a good laugh out of everybody. He played along, good sport once again. And the guy just comes across to me in the interview process like, someone that wants to be a team player. And those two words are the most important things that you can give a player. A compliment, as far as I'm concerned, is being a team player. Of course, he wants the accolades. Of course, he wants to go to the NFL one day. But he's not blatantly out there being a diva. And that's hard to find sometimes, especially with quarterbacks and wide receivers and people that are at the glamorous positions like that. So in the long run, I think that Oklahoma's going to be just fine with Jackson Arnold and Brent Venables going forward, doing things his way, being his own man. Bob Stoops was a great coach, but Brent Venables needs to be Brent Venables, not Bob Stoops. And that brings me to Barry Switzer. Barry Switzer done a follow-up interview with Paul Feinbaum the other day to address some of the comments he made about being worried about Oklahoma going to the SEC. Clarified his comments a little bit, but it's basically the same thing he's saying. He didn't really back away from it. And he just told them, hey, look, I just don't think that Oklahoma's defense is where it needs to be right now going into the SEC. Going into the SEC, you're not going to have 3 or 4 week period sometimes where you got teams that are mediocre that you're going to be able to just slide by with. This is going to be, you might get 1 week off or 2 weeks off from playing really hard, successful teams. But for the most part, you've got to be on your toes every week or you can get upset, even by teams like Vanderbilt. They've been known to pull upsets. But Oklahoma fans need to realize one thing, and this is how hard the SEC is. 3 of the SEC's national title winners in the past 15 years. 3 of them. 2 of them by Alabama, 2011, and then I think it was, 2018 or 2020. Anyway, 2 of Alabama's national championships. Alabama did not win the SEC title. And 1 of Georgia's national championships, their very first one, before they repeated, their very first one, they did not win the SEC championship. So the SEC is it's actually harder to win than the national championship if you think about it. So if a national champion winner can't win the SEC, you can imagine how hard it is. It's that hard. And that's not me patting us on the back or trying to scare anybody. I'm just saying that some of the stuff that Barry Switzer said had some truth to it. But I would just like to say that, Barry, you can't be afraid to do what's best for your program. And what's best for Oklahoma and Texas right now is to go to the SEC. Because the Big 12, financially speaking, even though they signed a nice little deal here recently, it just wasn't getting it done for Oklahoma and Texas. And Barry, a couple of people, Oklahoma fans told me that they thought, and one of them was one of our loyal listeners, Killer Breeze, that maybe Barry was having a little nostalgic moment. You know, he just maybe felt like by Oklahoma going to the SEC that erases some of his legacy or something from the Big 8 days. And, you know, back in the day, it was pretty easy. It was a lot easier to win the Big 8 back then than it is now. It was called the Big 12. So maybe Barry sees it as maybe taken away from his legacy somewhat or something like that. I don't really know about that. I don't really have an opinion either way, but you guys and gals might be able to fill me in on that and tell me what you think about all that. What do you think about Barry Switzer's comments? Do you think that maybe Barry Switzer overstepped the bounds a little bit? Or do you think he was on point or somewhere in between? Drop in the comment section. And that's all I got to say about that today. If you don't mind, there's a little heart down here at the bottom. Hit that, throw a few dollars in the coffers. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Sharing and subscribing is most important. And as always, KMCA to all the other teams. Class is now officially dismissed.